Your life is a reflection of which voice inside your head you listen to and obey. Is a brilliant line I heard in someone else's sermon. It's not originally mine. Let me say it again. Your life is a reflection of which voice inside your head you listen to and obey. Your providence is your fate. But your fate, it seems, is dependent on the voices in your head, and that's problematic for me, y'all, because I got a lot of voices in my head. And they all have different agendas. I've been able to narrow down all the voices in my head into 3 categories. 1, the voices going loudly out of my head. 2, the voices coming loudly into my head. And 3, the voice of God emanating within my heart, sending only quiet whispers into my head. This is the hardest voice to hear because it refuses to compete with the others. Voice 1, the voice is going out of my head, aka the things I think about myself and others, and more often than not, I assume the worst. I wonder why Chris hasn't texted me back yet. He's probably pissed at me for interrupting him the other day at rehearsal. I can't believe I wore shorts to my workout the other day. I bet you that's why that client didn't want to come back. This sermon sucks. I can't believe I ever thought I could be a reverend. Sad, right? But totally relatable, as it seems our brains are literally wired to think negatively about ourselves and the world around us. Professor Baumeister, a social psychologist at Florida State University, says survival requires urgent attention to possible bad outcomes, but less urgent attention with regard to good outcomes. And so, evolutionarily, we are wired to think the worst. Further studies have shown that people remember negative events in detail with stronger language and can recall negative events quicker than positive ones. We're also quicker to believe negative ideas with less proof than we are positive ideas with more facts. And that's why the phrase "too good to be true" is such a popular cliche, but you've never heard "too bad to be true," have you? We are so hypnotized by drama that we have a hard time accepting good things even when they land in our lap. It seems that the agenda of voice number 1, also known as the ego, is survival, and because of that, this voice screams its disparaging lies. Which brings me to voice 2. The voices coming into my head. These are the things I hear society pushing into me. The agenda of these voices, more often than not, is to maintain the status quo. The status quo. These are the voices telling us to be peacekeepers instead of peacemakers, not to rock the boat of identity, to be heterosexual, monogamous, and obedient to the rat race, to drink Coca-Cola in order to have friends, to shut up and clock in at our abysmal jobs so that we can work hard, make money, and get crunk at the club on the weekends, that relationships are hard, and that making love is more important than making art. And anyone who strays from these cultural moldings is a distraction and a disappointment doomed to failure, and we should bully them into submission. These are the voices that tell me that the comfort of others is more important than the desire to be myself, and so I strive for acceptance rather than authenticity. And I find myself at the end of the day an exhausted stranger to my own soul. And the wise words of a meme I saw today on Instagram: the greatest prison people live in is the fear of what other people think of them. Thank you, Instagram. Who needs church when you got internets? And voice number 3, the voice of God. As Martin Buber, a religious existentialist, noted, the voice of God is a thin silence, while the voice of the modern world is a mighty roar. The voice of God is softer than the others, yet its truths are louder than all of the lies combined. This voice has no agenda other than to be a radiation of itself, which is the divine truth of God. In order to drown out the other voices in our head, we must become anchored to these truths. These truths include God is good, which is the simple gospel, or just God is, which is the simplest sentence? Or what about just God? Because does the subject even need a verb when the subject in the nature of itself is all-encompassing infinity? Professor Baumeister, the psychologist from FSU, wrote an article called "Bad is Stronger Than Good," and he's referring to the way that negative thoughts are more powerful than positive ones. But as people of faith, we know that the providence of God is a promise that we are always protected by him or her or it. For those of us grounded in the New Thought tradition, we also know that we attract to ourselves the things we think about the most. And so for the last month, I have become astutely aware of the anchor of my thoughts and have tried to meditate on the truths of God, voice 3. And I watched as my mind flew away and landed in the voices of 1 and 2, the untruths. My mind is anchored in the untruth. My anchor in God is strong in my heart, but weak in my mind. And so we must practice every day to retrain our brains to their rightful place in the kingdom of heaven. Keep your eyes on the truth and let nothing pull you away. Take yourself every day to the gym of spirit, known as meditation and prayer, and give yourself a workout in order to grow stronger. Perhaps the scientists are right that our brains are just wired for negativity due to evolution, but do we think that we have stopped evolving? Maybe evolution from here on out is a choice. And we can choose to consciously shed our past and open ourselves up to a higher way of living. Perhaps this is our fate, to choose a higher truth, and when we do, our lives can and will become a reflection of heaven.